No gratitude in Africa, only calculation. Who'd have thought Niger would dare turn against the East? In days, this country, once China's brother in hardship, suddenly tore off its mask, expelling senior executives from China National Petroleum Corporation. They froze the refinery, revoked hotel licenses, and even threatened to seize oil fields and pipelines by force. A staunch ally of 10 years, once hand in hand, has now turned into the most ruthless backstabber. The incident began with the energy coup launched by Niger on March 13th. At President Gianni's command, 3 senior executives from China National Petroleum were ordered to pack up and leave within 48 hours, and the refinery's accounts were frozen. Even the Sunshine International Hotel, which was invested in by the Chinese side, had its license revoked. Not only that, Niger made outrageous demands, insisting that the crude oil profit share be doubled from 15% to 30%, and also demanded $130 million in back fines. Even more absurd, in 2024 they actually asked China National Petroleum for a $400 million advance loan. At this moment, a piece of shocking news broke. Niger refused to repay its loans, and in turn, threatened to seize the oil fields if China did not compromise. A year ago, they were humble and pleading. A year later, they turned their backs, reneged on their debts, and flipped the table. This farmer and snake drama is even more outrageous than a Hollywood movie. Back when Western capital withdrew, it was China that, braving malaria and conflict, invested $4.6 billion to help Niger build oil fields and lay pipelines, transforming a barren desert into an energy hub. But now that they've grown stronger, they immediately turned cooperation into robbery, treating their partner like a cash cow. It seems, deep down, they still kneel to the colonial mindset of white supremacy, and the goodwill from the East is instead seen as weakness to be exploited. What Niger has cut is not just an oil field, but trust. What's been hurt is not just business, but people's hearts. Don't be naive, don't be confused. These 6 words of wisdom. I hope Niger remembers them and doesn't end up shooting itself in the foot.
Niger has been slapped in the face. According to reports, the Nigerian foreign minister visited China, seeking China's forgiveness. This began May 23rd, when Niger's military government abruptly demanded all Chinese workers leave by month's end. The laughable reason was Chinese employees were overpaid while locals received only $1,200. Chinese executives could earn up to $8,378 monthly. Their calculation method resembled haggling at a market. Why ignore the reality that while Chinese engineers drill in 50-degree heat, Nigerian workers fear touching equipment? They even revoked the Chinese-owned Sunshine International Hotel's license, citing discriminatory practices, simply because it primarily served Chinese company employees and wasn't for the public. This was a carefully orchestrated state-level default. March 2024. The Nigerian military government borrowed $400 million in advance from CNPC to be repaid with crude oil. A year later, they not only failed to repay, but also tried to default on the 7% interest. To force concessions, they froze refinery accounts, expelled executives, and even seized the hotel, blatantly treating Chinese assets as hostages. This move, intended to harm, ultimately backfired.
When news of the Nigerian government unilaterally freezing Chinese investment projects reached thousands of miles away, an engineer far away in Beijing was intently watching the large screen in the central control room. His fingertips hovered over the keyboard for 3 seconds. The moment the command was entered, it was as if an invisible bond had been instantly triggered. The drilling platform deep in the Sahara Desert was suddenly plunged into complete silence. Equipment that had been operating unsteadily came to an abrupt halt, and the oil field's daily output plummeted by 80% as if falling off a cliff. This astonishing scene was undoubtedly a clear digital red line drawn by China in the field of international business competition, leveraging Beidou technology to deliver a powerful technological counterstrike. In Niger, within the meticulously constructed gas power plant, each unit is equipped with 3 hidden smart key intelligent compartments. When the other party attempted to forcibly take over control of the power plant, the sensitive 5G signal and the precise Beidou satellite simultaneously detected abnormal vibrations in the equipment. Like a vigilant sentinel sensing danger, the system quickly and automatically activated a 3-level defense mechanism. A 1-level defense decisively cuts off the fuel supply, depriving the intruding force of its power source. The 2nd level of defense puts the units into a dormant state, like a giant beast entering deep sleep, temporarily concealing its strength. Finally, even the backup generator units enter a self-encryption mode. It was as if a layer of indestructible armor had been put on the critical information. Those so-called professional foreign experts paced anxiously around the control room several times, their brows tightly furrowed and faces full of confusion, unable to comprehend why a system designed by Easterners seemed to possess a will of its own, capable of so deftly resisting external intrusion. This silent yet fierce technological contest was like a powerful bomb, shocking the entire world. The daily output of crude oil from the targeted oil field plummeted by 80%, which was already a heavy blow. However, even more intimidating was the digital countdown hidden deep within the equipment. With each day of delay, the unsealing system would mercilessly and automatically destroy part of the core data, like a ticking time bomb, sounding the alarm for the other side's delusions. At this moment, Niger had lost itself amid the overwhelming praise and manipulation from Western media. A group of Nigerian apprentices, carefully trained by Chinese technical experts, believed they had surpassed their teachers and arrogantly attempted to seize control of the system through brute force hacking. They were completely unaware of their own ignorance and recklessness. The final result was that 14 oil wells were permanently damaged, causing economic losses of up to $2.7 million. This huge loss was like a resounding slap in their faces. Under the influence of Western public opinion, Niger's top officials, dressed in sharp suits, blindly and confidently believed they had enough capability to sit at the table and feast, and not just on any meat, but the biggest cuts. The Nigerian technical workers also naively thought so. They thought that after learning from Chinese masters for a while, they could work independently, replace the Chinese staff and earn huge profits. They completely ignored the fact that over the past 22 years, Chinese companies had invested more than $6 billion in total. These investments acted as a solid foundation, making outstanding contributions to Niger's economic development, accounting for 10% of its GDP, 70% of its foreign exchange earnings, and 1/8 of its tax revenue. They never considered what their country would look like without the input and construction from Chinese enterprises. Let me ask, if it were the French here, would they sincerely build bridges, roads, and hospitals for them, and help establish the country's development? Unfortunately, human greed knows no bounds. They fail to cherish this hard-won opportunity for cooperation and development, and instead they keep pushing for more. Now, the economic community of West African states has imposed a trade embargo on Niger. This measure is like a heavy shackle, causing Niger to lose 78% of its regional trade volume. At the same time, the termination of the electricity supply agreement plunged Niger's border cities into endless darkness. Amidst this darkness and hardship, Niger finally woke up as if from a dream, realizing deeply that in the new era, the lifeblood of energy is not only buried in underground oil fields, but is even more firmly held in the code tapped out by Chinese engineers. This is the power of business warfare in the digital age. Any country that wants to tamper with Chinese investments must first carefully weigh its own strength.
Niger's refined oil products rely on Chinese supply. This led to nationwide gas lines kilometers long, fuel prices soaring 300%, even Niamey hospital generators shutting down from lack of fuel. Public complaints mounted, civil servants unpaid, the military government in a hot seat. More surreal, Niger offended China while cozying up to Russia. They handed over the seized refinery to Wagner mercenaries to manage and even tried to sell oil extraction rights to Russia. But Russia wasn't interested at all. After all, they're already struggling to sell their own oil, so why would they bother with a rundown refinery in the Sahara Desert? Now Niger was completely dumbfounded. Western sanctions hadn't been lifted, Chinese aid was cut off, Russia couldn't be relied on, and the domestic economy collapsed outright. Protests kept erupting on the streets of the capital. Opposition groups blocked the gates of the presidential palace, holding signs demanding the return of fuel. And even within the military, people started to grumble, wondering if this deal had been a huge loss. At this point, Niger's foreign minister Sangare couldn't sit still any longer. On June 11th, he rushed to Changsha, and his very first words were that he hoped China would let bygones be bygones. But China's response was a textbook example of diplomatic finesse. They emphasized the traditional friendship between China and Niger, but also made it clear that cooperation must be based on mutual respect. The implication couldn't be clearer. If Niger wants China's help, they first need to clean up the mess caused by expelling Chinese companies and clarify the $400 million debt. China has supported Niger. Since 2006, CNPC entered Niger. China invested $4 billion in 22 years, building Niger's first oil pipeline. This enabled the landlocked country to export 90,000 barrels of crude oil daily, contributing 10% of GDP and 12.5% of tax revenue. Hospitals, schools, and wells built with Chinese aid directly benefited hundreds of thousands of Nigerians. However, after the military government came to power, they first tore up the uranium mining contract with France. Then they expelled U.S. troops, and now they're turning against China, acting like an outcast in the international community. Niger today is like a gambler who's lost everything, clutching resources but unable to turn them into cash. They thought that by driving out Chinese companies, they could reclaim economic sovereignty, only to find that without Chinese technology, all oil extraction equipment is out of commission, oil exploration vehicles have rusted into scrap metal, and even their electricity supply depends on neighboring Nigeria. Even more ironically, the Sahel alliance they're so proud of, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, exactly, they're in dire straits and can't offer real help. This time, the foreign minister's visit to China is begging for aid. Niger hopes China will resume oil projects, provide emergency loans, and reopen Chinese-owned hotels. But China isn't a pushover. During the meeting, they emphasized protecting Chinese enterprise interests. Message clear: cooperate by rules, pay debts, revoke expulsions. While Niger asks for China's forgiveness, while on the other, they're still playing both sides. Just after signing a military cooperation agreement with Russia, they immediately sent their foreign minister to China to curry favor, thinking they could benefit from both major powers. But reality is harsh. China isn't buying it, and Russia isn't interested in cleaning up their mess either. Now Niger is like a mouse stuck between rocks, caught in a dilemma. Offending China comes at too high a price, but admitting their mistakes would be a blow to their pride. In the end, this farce in Niger serves as a warning to all countries. International cooperation isn't child's play. Act tough today due to resources, and you'll pay for short-sightedness tomorrow.
Oil operations resumed in August 2024, with ship tracking data showing a tanker carrying approximately 1 million barrels of Niger crude oil departing from a Benin port bound for China. However, investments by large Chinese state-owned enterprises in Africa are indeed fraught with risks. China's predatory business strategies have also sparked growing discontent in Africa. Although China has temporarily quelled the dispute with Niger, the Nigerian military junta is a rogue regime, making it a ticking time bomb.